Formula One returns to the Spa-Francorchamps will tell you who got the pole and how weather could affect the race. Kuma Sato looking to make history, going Ari Leinbach and doing something very rare if he wins today or tomorrow. And NASCAR returns to Daytona, the final race of the regular season. The playoffs will start after this weekend.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Grit Live pre-race show. I'm Cubby Lambert from the PodiumFinish.net. We have Jessica right here from Paddock Insider and my partner in crime, Joe Samniego. This weekend we have Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, and Australian SuperCars. But today we're going to start off with Formula One with Jessica from Paddock Inside.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here with you to talk about Formula One this weekend in Belgium, this amazing circuit like Spa-Francorchamps. So we had to start to talk about it. So Formula One returned to Belgium this weekend, and this part of the regular schedule not changed by the coronavirus. First time since last year when Anthony Hoover died after sustained injuries in the Saturday F2 feature race. Kobe, what do you think about the tributes for Hoover?
Oh, wow. It was definitely a lot of emotional scenes at Spa-Francorchamps. I remember seeing Juan Manuel Correa there. That was very powerful. Juan Manuel Correa was the other. He was injured in that crash last year, which ultimately ended up, had a minor spinal injury and injured both of his legs pretty badly. It was a really bad crash. I remember Juan Manuel Correa's car was upside down, and you could see his legs exposed, and that was definitely very scary to see, and to see him, there 1 year later paying tribute to Antoine Hubert, that was powerful, and then seeing all of the pictures of people from the paddock, all at the track, during the track walk, and then ending heading over to the place where Antoine Hubert tragically lost his life, and then Pierre Gasly with his tribute helmet. It was definitely really special, and the scenes this weekend, is definitely something that I'll remember for a long time. Remembering a fallen friend.
Yes. Friday, Valtteri Bottas celebrated his birthday with topping the first practice season, but that didn't stop Verstappen, who took the top stop in the free practice too, and Daniel Ricciardo took second fastest and Lewis Hamilton third. But Saturday is when begin the fastest count the most, and the pole winner, Lewis Hamilton. Let's see the top 10 this Saturday. And we have in the first place Lewis Hamilton, second Valtteri Bottas, then Max Verstappen, fourth Daniel Ricciardo, five we have Alex Albon, then Esteban Ocon, seven Carlos Sainz, eight Sergio Perez, nine Lance Stroll, and 10 Lando Norris. Ferrari both failed to get into the Q3. Joe, doesn't anyone have anything to beat Mercedes today?
Oh, does anyone have? I don't know if anybody has anything to beat Mercedes. Mercedes is looking really good. I mean, especially Lewis Hamilton setting a new track record today. Valtteri Bottas right behind him. Max Verstappen, he was there. He said he could have possibly challenged a little bit more, but I don't know if anyone's going to have anything. Spa is a much longer circuit. Horsepower is going to be the big name of the game. We saw Ferrari. They don't have the horsepower compared to last year. They're really slow. So there's just going to be a lot of challenges with this race for everybody, because the long straights of Spa, that's a favor for Mercedes. Ferrari, they don't have that this year. Red Bull, they don't seem to have the handling this year. We got a lot of fast corners where you got to be flat out. So I think this could be essentially Mercedes' race to win.
Perfect. Sunday race forecast looks to be rain for the F1 Formula One race. Kobe, enjoy. When it comes to rain, how will it equalize the race?
They always say rain is the great equalizer. I do think it still would be a Mercedes show, or even Red Bull Max Verstappen would have a shot. But definitely, I believe the field would be a lot closer. I believe it was last year Germany that we saw rain, really crazy. When they were Toro Rosso, now AlphaTauri, they were running extremely well in wet weather conditions. Remember Danny Kvyat, Pierre Gasly, you know, they're running extremely well. Yeah, and you see it in other forms of racing as well. When it rains, put on the rain tires. You'll see drivers who really wouldn't have a chance of running where they are in the rain in dry conditions. So I certainly think that if if the entire Belgian Grand Prix or even a portion of it is in wet weather conditions, I do think Mercedes is still the team to beat, but other teams might have an outside shot to win as well if something goes wrong.
Yeah, with the rain, it does equalize everybody. We could see somebody that could be the opportunity Vettel needs is a wet rain, because that horsepower that they're lacking is not a big disadvantage. That's equalized out. Sergio Perez, we've seen him almost win a Sauber in the rain back in Malaysia. If he could put together a good run, he's starting towards the front, peaks up potential. With the rain, the big thing, of course, Lewis Hamilton, he's pretty good at the rain. He knows what he's doing, and he has the experience. But definitely the advantages that the Mercedes car have on dry weather, that is essentially equalized down, and is anybody's race if it rains.
Yeah. Tomorrow 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, Formula One, Belgian Grand Prix.
Definitely, we encourage everyone to be sure to watch the Belgian Grand Prix. And of course, we definitely want to thank Jessica as well, and be sure to follow her on Paddock Insight as well. One of the big things, of course, along with the Formula One, we also have a lot of racing going on, as you can see in the lineup. But one of the big things, of course, is NASCAR. The Coke 0400 race at Daytona International Speedway is the final race of the regular season. We've had 10 different winners so far. If we get another different winner, that'll be 11. So, with only 10 spots, we have essentially 11 different winners if we get a new winner today. But we still have other drivers, such as Eric Almirola, Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch. They locked themselves into the playoffs with the points. But there are really 3 drivers battling for the final positions. Those are Clint Bowyer. He is 57 points ahead in the good. Matt Benedetto, he started off much further ahead. Now he's only 9 points in the good. William Byron, he's 4 points up on his teammate, Jimmy Johnson. Everyone is talking about these two going for the final playoff points. And then, of course, Eric Jones really had a must-win situation. I mean, he has a long road to get there. And then Tyler Reddick is really at a must-win situation for any hope to get into the playoffs. When it comes to the playoffs, Kobe, entering this race, who do you feel has the most to lose? Not only when it comes to not making the playoffs, but when it comes to silly season, looking for that new ride, making a statement that they deserve a top caliber ride.
Well, looking at those drivers, Clint Bowyer, Matt Benedetto, and Eric Jones, it seems like that Eric Jones is currently in the process of finding a ride right now, and I think that he'll be able to do that. So I'm not really worried about Eric Jones. And then Clint Bowyer, there's like so many rumors out there that he's not returning to Stewart-Haas Racing, and I haven't seen any that he will return. So I believe that Clint Bowyer, he's already on the outside looking in. There's Chase Briscoe, who's been having a career season in the Xfinity Series, is one of the front runners for that car, and also Kyle Larson's name has been thrown around in the 14 car as well. But the driver I think who has the most to lose, not only with the playoffs like you mentioned, but in silly season is Matt Benedetto, because it seems like William Byron and Jimmy Johnson are gonna have to work together tonight. 200 cars work together to push up Matt Benedetto's Wood Brothers Racing Ford Mustang, and also with Matt Benedetto, his contract situation is interesting because he could potentially return next year if the team doesn't pick up his if the team doesn't pick up his option. Matt Benedetto might be out, and since the Team Penske alliance with the Wood brothers, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, all 3 of those guys are returning to Team Penske next year. And then when you look at the Team Penske development driver in the Xfinity Series, Austin Cindric is really on a tear right now. Cindric is doing some amazing things right now in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And you could argue, that Yeah, he does have some growing to do still, but Austin Cindric is having a career year in the Xfinity Series. Yeah, certainly, he could definitely spend another year in the Xfinity Series, in my opinion. To further fine tune his skills as a driver. But Austin Cindric, with his latest form, he's really gonna make a difficult decision. Especially if Austin Cindric keeps driving the way he's driving. Austin Cindric might be working his way to a NASCAR Cup Series ride in 2021, and it seems like the only possible place where that could be is that 21 car that Matt DiBenedetto's driving.
That 21 car definitely seems like a possibility for him. It's going to be really interesting to see. Definitely, I feel Eric Jones, especially, he doesn't know where he is, but he might have a ride lined up. If Clint Bowyer could get in the playoffs and then pull off a win, I think he could really make a statement that I deserve a top caliber ride. But I do agree with you. It seems like if Clint Bowyer is one of the drivers that definitely doesn't seem to be fully in the know as to where he'll be next year. Now, two drivers that two drivers that are still in the playoff hunt, but they are really must-win situations are Christopher Bell and Bubba Wallace. Of course, we both know Christopher Bell is going to the 20 team next year. Bubba Wallace, he is pretty much the center of silly season. He knows he's going to have a ride somewhere. He has opportunities lined up. The question is, where will he go? What other drivers can benefit that we haven't mentioned yet from the bubble and Bubba Wallace or Christopher Bell? Which other drivers could really benefit with a playoff appearance?
Well, I'm sure my pick is gonna surprise people here, but I think the driver who can benefit the most from a win is Ryan Preece in that 37 car at JTG Dardu Racing. It's definitely been a nightmarish sophomore season for Ryan Preece. A lot of things haven't gone right for that team. A lot of things have really, not really worked out in Ryan Preece's favor, and other drivers have been rumored to, take over that 37 car next year. I know Corey LaJoy has been linked to that ride, and there could be some other candidates as well. So I believe that Ryan Preece, since it seems it's a weird situation over there at JTG Darty Racing. There's an ad in my face. I'll go away, but yeah, but it's a weird situation because the same thing that what Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is doing to Ryan Preece is the exact same thing that Ryan Newman did to him at Roush Fenway Racing. You thought the cars weren't that great at Roush Fenway Racing, and then Ryan Newman comes in there and he outperforms Ricky Stenhouse Jr., showing us all that the car is better than how Stenhouse was performing. And then Ricky Stenhouse got the boot for Chris Buescher, and now Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is over at JTG Darty Racing, and now Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is outperforming Ryan Preece. And I understand, at the Cup level, you need to give drivers time to develop, because this is Ryan Preece's second full time season as like NASCAR Cup driver. And I feel like it might be too soon to give up on Ryan Preece, but in the world of motorsports, you're not given that time anymore.
Yeah, that's the big thing. You're not given the time like we used to see where a driver could be there for years and try to prove themselves. Ryan Preece, if he could steal a win, he would just really increase his chances for a ride next year. His teammate, Ricky Stenhouse, that's a person everybody has to watch. And he's starting way in the back because of this new qualifying format where essentially the prior week's race results determines where you start. So it's going to be really interesting to see if he could come up. The big thing, of course, is avoiding the big one. If you could avoid the big one, you got a really good shot at winning it. And of course, there's always the chance the big one could happen really late in the race. Daytona is known as the track where almost anyone can win. But the one question I guess some fans are wondering, is it a little bit too much of a chance? I know with the restrictor plates, almost anybody could win. Is this the best way to determine the final opportunity for the playoffs is one race where it's almost anybody's race? Or is that just a little bit too much of a unpredictable control where it's almost by chance?
Do I think it's fair to end the season this way? For the sake of the integrity of racing. No, I don't think it's fair to the drivers. I think it would be better if um if it ended at a track, like for so many years with Richmond, and then the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where driver skill mattered a lot more, and you didn't really have your fate in somebody else's hands, where you can kind of go out there and control your own destiny. I feel like it would be a lot more fair if we had the cutoff race before the playoffs at a non-restrictor plate track. But hey, Joe, this is they call it sports and entertainment for a reason. And Daytona, when they had made the announcement that Daytona would be the last race before the playoffs, I knew it was going to be like, oh my gosh, this is not going to end well for a lot of people. And auto racing is a sport, but at the same time, it's also entertainment. So moving Daytona to this spot in the schedule is definitely going to lead to a lot of entertainment. There's going to be a lot of tense people out there.
A lot of tense people. One of the things I've heard people said, if the drivers are not happy with the situation, usually it's better for the fans. This is something where for the fans, they're going to be on the edge. They're going to be cheering for their favorite driver, and especially that driver like Ryan Newman, Bubba Wallace, one of these drivers that don't have a win. They don't exactly have the equipment to win. But we could see Ryan Prix win tonight, get in the playoffs. All of a sudden, for his fans, that's a huge boost in I want to watch the playoffs. I want to watch the Southern 500, which is kicking off the playoffs. So I could see where NASCAR is going with this idea. It does seem to be a little bit on the more crazier side that, we're going to have one race at Daytona for the final opportunity to get in the playoffs. Almost like a last chance dash that we see in the local short tracks. So it's going to be really fun for all the fans. And I think it's going to be really entertaining. And I think it could be something where we're going to be talking about on Grid Life post-race, a surprise winner, I think. Speaking about not like the biggest surprises, Australian SuperCars, we didn't see Scott McLaughlin win. He had won last week 3 in a row, came in here as the grid ranking leader. The series is doing everything they can to salvage the 2020 racing season with the growing restrictions in Australia due to the pandemic. Queensland Raceway confirmed that it's not going to host an Australian supercar race this year due to the restrictions. So that leaves only essentially 2 tracks, Bend Motorsports Park and Sydney Motorsports Park. Of course, we still have potentially the Bathurst 1000, their crown jewel race. Since 2003, more than 25 races a season, sometimes 38 races a year for the supercars. They only have 15 races so far completed this year. Kobe, do you feel they should maybe look into what Formula E did and do a cluster of races at the 2 venues and then Bathurst and then call it good?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not really sure. I'm not really familiar with a lot of the racetracks down under in Australia, but if there's a track that's available, right now, given all of the restrictions in that area, if a track has multiple layouts to it, like we see over here in the United States and other tracks in Europe, kind of like we have the Silverstone Grand Prix course, then we have the national, international, and then we have Stowe and all of that. If they have multiple layouts, I believe that they could definitely do it. I'm not sure like which tracks that these supercars could race besides the ones that you race at, but besides the ones you mentioned, with Bend Motorsport Park and Sydney Motorsports Park. But if there's a track with multiple layouts, in Australia, I definitely think that could be a good idea. But also, if they have to run more races at the tracks that I've already been to this season, I'm sure they don't want to go that route, but they might unfortunately be forced to do so. But certainly, if they want to get more races, I definitely think that's an idea that they should look into.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how it works out. Of course, Australia, we all assume that, you could just drive all over. Well, yeah, you can, but it's a really big area, a lot of distance between the tracks. And of course, the pandemic there, it has been making it. I mean, we got teams operating out of barns, temporary places to avoid travel restrictions. It might be something where they might start to want to consider the idea. Well, if we have the 2 racetracks host 5 races each, that'll put us at 25 races. Bathurst 26. Call the season good. Now, of course, with the Supercar Series, they are racing this weekend, And a really interesting race. Jamie Whincup, he's actually won from the pole, took the first race, dominating fashion. They have 2 more races later today. Scott McLaughlin, he had to start way back 16th place, but he still climbed up to 7th place, finishing in the top 10. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this affects the grid ranking coming forward. And definitely we encourage everyone to be sure to follow the grid ranking as well. You can follow us at gridranking.com.
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna stay following the situation that's currently developing in the Australian Supercar Series, and once we get some more information, we'll be sure to discuss it here with you on the Grid Network. And now, switching gears back to NASCAR, here's a little fact for you all. The 1998 Pepsi 400 was the first NASCAR Cup Series race at Daytona held under the lights, and this occurred in October. Yeah, and on in the 4th of July weekend that year, when the race was originally supposed to happen, it was postponed due to wildfires in the area. And tonight's race is the second time the Daytona night race will not take place during its traditional 4th of July weekend. You remember, so many years they call it the Firecracker 400, then the Pepsi 400, then the Coke Zero 400. Now it's the Coke Zero Sugar 400. Is this a new tradition, or do you think that it'll change a lot over the years?
I like to see this be a new tradition. I mean, with the big thing in Indianapolis 4th of July, especially if they could have the IndyCar series there, that was a really popular weekend. That could be a good new 4th of July tradition. And then to end the regular season at Daytona, it's essentially where I feel it will be just a good opportunity to showcase the crown jewel racetrack, Daytona International Speedway, as the place we kick off the season, the place we end the regular season. And Daytona 500, we all know everyone's going for the win at that race. Well, now it just makes it where for the Coke Zero Sugar 400, everyone's just going for the win. Even for the drivers that are already locked in the playoffs, they still want to get more points, help themselves out in the playoffs. So I think it's good, hopefully a new tradition. I know I still remember when NASCAR was looking at changing other traditions, such as removing the Southern 500 from Labor Day. They gave that date to California Auto Club Speedway. I thought, okay, this is the start of a new tradition. It just never caught on with the fans. They moved it to Atlanta. It still didn't really caught on, and now it's back at Darlington. So, well, let's see. For me, I'm hoping it is the start of something new.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I remember when they announced that they were moving the Daytona night race 4th of July weekend. You know, it's been tradition for so many years. When they announced that they were moving it to the end of the regular season, a lot of people are really upset by this. Yeah, and understandably so. Change is really hard. It's hard to move on to new traditions, but this is where we are today. And if this is a hit, I'm sure that a lot of the fans who were against this new tradition might start to catch on eventually, and we'll just have to wait and see. I know I say this a lot. Those are my drinking words. We're gonna have to wait and see what happens. Yeah, now looking at the picture in the regular season of everything that's happened so far, Kevin Harvick clinched the regular season championship last weekend during the Dover doubleheader. Yeah, that tongue twister keep messing me up right there. Yeah, Harvick has 7 wins. Denny Hamlin, I think it's gonna be a shootout between Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin for the championship when Denny has 6 wins. Only 3 other drivers have more than 2 wins, and then 5 drivers have 1 win each. Who do you think is going to be going hard for the win tonight? And do you think anybody is going to take it easy? Or, this is Daytona. Is it even possible to take it easy out there?
It used to be, especially prior to the stage points, you would see Joe Gibbs Racing or some other teams just take it easy in the back, wait till we were about 50 laps towards the end, and then start working their way to the front, avoid the big one. With the stage points, those are still valuable points, especially the playoff points. If you're Kevin Harvick, I mean, you got 7 wins. So that already means with the 10 playoff points per win, that's 70 playoff points he has. If he could give himself 80, that means he's essentially a full race and some more ahead of whoever's the bottom ranked person in the playoffs. So everybody's still going to be going out to get more playoff points, even the drivers that are locked in. A win, 10 playoff points, that could be the difference between advancing to the next round. So I do think this creates a situation where for all the drivers, it's go to Daytona and you're only going there with one goal, win the race.
Definitely, and when you look at the average finishes, well, the best average finishes among active drivers, 3 starts or more, we have Austin Dillon, Clint Boyer, Bubba Wallace, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick right there. Do you think having a best average finish at Daytona, not just Daytona, Talladega as well, the restrictor plate tracks, does that mean anything? Considering the nature of these tracks, or do you and is this anyone's race to win?
I think it's a bit of a significance. I know we've seen drivers that have never won at a restrictor plate track but been good elsewhere. I think of Rusty Wallace, he comes to mind. I know when it comes to, especially today at Daytona, it's going to be nighttime. It's going to be cooler conditions. So I think for drivers like Bubba Wallace, Austin Dillon, who are on the top of that list, Clint Boyer, if they don't exactly have a well handling car, well, good news. It's cooler conditions. It's not going to be that big of a deal compared to if you have a poorly set up car and the Daytona 500 during the daytime. Now, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, they're going to be going for the win, of course. Still, the way I see it, it's going to be really anybody's race to win. But definitely, you got to be feeling pretty good if you're in that list of some of the best average finishes at Daytona.
Yeah, definitely. I believe it could be anyone's race to win. Those the playoff drivers want to go out there and get some more playoff points headed into the playoffs, which is the net is is really right around the corner. Yeah, definitely want to do anything that can help you in the playoffs, and drivers on the outside looking in. Winning tonight could change your entire season. So it'll be interesting to see if we'll see a surprise winner. And we're going to talk more about NASCAR later in the program, including the final NASCAR in and out. And next, we're gonna talk about the IndyCar action 1 week after the Indy 500. Yeah, and this weekend, the NTT IndyCar Series is racing at Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway.
Yeah, that's right. They're going to be at Worldwide Technology Raceway Gateway. It's going to be a really exciting race. The Bommarito 500. This year's a little bit of a different format because we got a doubleheader format. So it's going to be two 250-mile races this year. The first one today, next one tomorrow. Qualifying is going to be today as well too. And they're doing the same format as in Iowa. The first lap will set the grid for the first race. Your second lap will set the grid for the second race. Really interesting to see what happens, and it's going to be really interesting to see if Takuma Sato, if he could win this weekend, he'll make some history, because the last time the Indianapolis 500 winner won the following weekend was Ari Luyendyk in 1997. So it's been a really long time. Kobe, do you think he could do it considering Sato won here at Gateway last year?
Yeah, certainly. I do think that Takuma Sato can be one of the contenders to win this weekend, but I still think he's gonna have to hold off Scott Dixon. The championship right now, it seems like it's already, on the home stretch. Scott Dixon has a huge 84-point lead right now, and I don't really see anybody catching Scott Dixon right now, and he's been extremely consistent. Yes, Takuma Sato I believe he will be in the mix, considering how well he ran last year. Wow, that was an incredible finish last year between him and Ed Carpenter. I remember that was like, whoa, yeah, that was definitely one of the more exciting finishes of the year. But definitely, I think you can put Takuma Sato in the mix this weekend.
Oh yeah, Takuma Sato, I see him in the mix. Yeah, he used strategy to get that win, but still, interesting part. There's only 3 past winners running: Will Power, Takuma Sato, and Joseph Newgarden. Of course, Powers and Newgarden, they both won from the pole. But of course, the person that hasn't won there yet, but has 2 top 5 finishes there, he DNF last year, Scott Dixon. And you mentioned he has that huge points lead right now. When it comes to Scott Dixon, is he essentially in a position right now where you feel like he could go out there as long as he finished? He's happy because he knows the big picture, the championship is just about his.
Yeah, I certainly think that Scott Dixon can, if he goes out there and does Scott Dixon things. I believe that he's gonna definitely be all right with the championship. Scott Dixon dominated so much during the first half of the season. I felt and everybody else for the most part has been really inconsistent. I think Scott Dixon, he has to have a massive collapse in this final stretch of races to lose the championship. Otherwise, I definitely think that he's going to get another one this year.
Yeah, he'll definitely need to have like some sort of catastrophic rest of the season just to give some insight. 84-point lead, that is the largest margin with 5 races left in the season. Maybe 7 races if we go back to Mid Ohio, which, by the way, Scott Dixon won on last year. The largest deficit that was ever overcame in the IndyCar series with 5 races left was 49 points. That's when Montoya had the lead, but essentially it was Scott Dixon who climbed up and got that championship. So it's still, a lot of it is looking to be in Scott Dixon's favor. Of course, the defending champion Joseph Newgarden comes here hoping to put something together. He is really excited. We got this quote from him. He said, "I'm really excited for Gateway. While Indy wasn't a really tough race, we had a decent finish, but it just wasn't our year. We had a really strong car and learned a few things. We're going to try on this Chevrolet this weekend at Gateway. We really need a solid weekend to keep ranking on points for the championship. So that would be a huge focus for us." When it comes to Joseph Newgarden, if he doesn't win this weekend at Gateway, do you feel essentially his season is a bit of a disappointment considering he's the defending champion?
I mean, I'm gonna say yes. I know. Yeah, you definitely want to win, especially when you're the defending champion and you drive for Team Penske. And also at the same time, I'm gonna say no because Scott Dixon has just been crazy good this year. And Scott Dixon, that's quite a driver you have to try to measure yourself against. And definitely, I would not hold it against Joseph Newgarden if he didn't secure a win this year because Scott Dixon, he's just performing so well right now.
Performing very well, and definitely I know some of our fans talking about it as well too. Somebody that's also having a great season as well. Pato, he was really fast as well. And definitely we encourage everyone in our chat room to chat. We love seeing what you have to say. Show it on the air. Definitely we just encourage everyone that is watching and viewing to participate in the chat room. We enjoy hearing what you all have to say. Now, one of the things that guy mentioned in the chat room was Pato Award. Well, guess what? He got fastest in practice yesterday, looking really good. Chevrolet seems to have really responded with a really fast car, and Pato O'Ward has had some really good finishes, a really good season. This is what he said yesterday after everything. "It was a good first session. It's nice to be back in St. Louis and to welcome the fans back as well. I always love driving around here, so looking forward to building on the practice into qualifying tomorrow," which is today. Harold McLaren, Smith Peterson, and Chevrolet did a great job preparing us for this weekend. With a quick turnaround, we are ready to go. When it comes to Gateway, do you think we have the possibility of seeing a surprise winner like Pato O'Ward or somebody else?
Yeah. First and foremost, want to emphasize, that what Pato O'Ward is doing this season, first full-time season as a IndyCar driver, it's been absolutely amazing because Pato O'Ward is definitely doing a great job for Harold McLaren SP, and certainly when he was dominating in the Indy Light Series, a lot of people were saying, get this kid in the IndyCar and he's going to be a star, and it definitely looks like that Pato O'Ward, based on his current performance so far this season, seems like Pato O'Ward is going to be a star in the IndyCar series for many years to come. And when we're looking at surprise winners, I certainly think that it's possible that we could see a surprise winner or two this weekend with the Gateway doubleheader weekend. Because remember, looking back at Iowa, another short oval on the IndyCar schedule, the undercut was that strategy was huge at Iowa. They had high horsepower, lower downforce, and a lot of tire fall off. Firestone brought an excellent tire to Iowa, and another short oval. If they have a similar package to what we saw at Iowa, I think the undercut is definitely what made the Iowa races a lot of fun, very entertaining. And if you're let's say if you're Pato O'Ward and you're running second to Scott Dixon and you're 4 seconds behind him, then you're going to come in pit early, the undercut, and you're going to try to get on faster tires, and then you're going to try to see if you can push as hard as you can. And then when Scott Dixon pits multiple laps later, then maybe just maybe you'll come out ahead. So I definitely think one strategy we have to look out for is the undercut, but also the undercut can be, very risky as well, especially on these short ovals. Imagine you come in, try the undercut, then you come out of the pits, go 2 or 3 laps down or whatever. Then the caution comes out. Then your race is over. IndyCar is not like NASCAR, where you can get the lucky dog free pass and take the wave around. If you go 2 or 3 laps down trying to try the undercut, then effectively your race is over.
yeah, race could be very over very easily. Any trouble at Gateway. And that's the thing. I feel Gateway, Will Power, Joseph Newgard, Takuma Sato, they got a lot of experience. They're very good racers. I think we're going to see one of those three. Maybe Scott Dixon, who's been close to winning at Gateway. Pato Award, if he could get the pole for today or tomorrow or both races, he has a shot. But I really feel it's going to be a winner from the front spot because you need to be up front to get the win. And with a win, of course, that put you in what's appearing more and more to be the battle for second place right now, considering Scott Dixon is so far ahead. So definitely encourage everyone. IndyCar today and tomorrow, qualifying is pretty much underway right now. And definitely we hope to see who takes the pole and how the races all turn out.
Yeah, certainly another unique qualifying format, similar to what we saw at Iowa, where your first lap, that's going to be where you qualify in the first race, and the second lap, that's going to be for race 2 tomorrow. Yeah, definitely love the qualifying format, and it will be interesting, if we have double headers in the future. Are they gonna go to the same format? I certainly think that's something that needs to be looked at in both IndyCar, if we do oval double headers, and also for NASCAR as well. And speaking of NASCAR, time to play everyone's favorite game one last time. NASCAR, in or out? Starting with Clint Boyer, 57-point cushion heading into Daytona. Joe, is Clint Boyer in or out?
I think he's definitely going to be in, unless he was to finish absolute dead last, and Eric Jones was to go out there, finish second place, get some points, and the way everything works out. But unless he has some horrifically bad luck, Clint Boyer is in the playoffs. When it comes to Matt Benedetto, he is only 9 points in the good. He started off with a lot of points, almost over 100, and he's just slowly been losing it. Does he have the momentum, or do you think he's going to be in or out?
Unfortunately for Matt DiBenedetto, I'm sad to say this, but I think that Matt DiBenedetto is going to be out. I think William Byron, Jimmy Johnson, and Hendrick Cars are going to gang up on him and knock him out of the playoffs altogether. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very good. Got lost a little bit right there. But William Byron now 4 points ahead right now over Jimmy Johnson. Is William Byron gonna be in or out?
William Byron, I think he's going to be out. The big one. I just don't. For me, it seems William Byron, he has a good race going on, and then it's like something happens. Next thing you know, tough luck. He was out of the playoff picture after the first race in Dover. He got back in. I just don't. I mean, I really want to see the 24 car do well. It's been a long time since we've seen the 24 car actually win a race. But I just see him being potentially somebody that he could get caught up in the big one. Now, of course, with that said, his teammate, Jimmy Johnson, 4 points behind. He needs to get around William Byron. If he could get around Matt Benedetto, even better. Do you see him in or out?
I think Jimmy Johnson's going to end up getting in the playoffs tonight unless he's caught up in the big one. Yeah, definitely. Jimmy Johnson wants to compete for a championship in his final season, running full time in the Cup Series. And I certainly think that the cars are going to fall in his favor tonight, and Jimmy Johnson's going to be able to compete for a championship. And, Eric Jones, way far down, seems like, Eric Jones won't be able to get in on points. And his only hope is going to be to secure a win to try to make the playoffs in his final year with Joe Gibbs Racing. Is Eric Jones in or out?
Eric Jones, I feel unless he gets that win, that's the only way he can get him. As for point-wise, I feel he is out. As I mentioned, unless Clint Boyer just goes out that first lap, has absolutely the worst luck and is out of the race, and Eric Jones goes out there, wins every stage, but finishes second, that's really the only way he can get in. It's just a tough road for him, and I feel he is just no way going to have the chance to get in. I definitely want to take a quick look at some of the comments we have before we get to our next part of the program, which we want to hear from everyone. In regards to the Indy Car, is definitely going to be complicated with Pato fighting with Dixon for the win. That's going to be a really good battle to see in Gateway. Then another fan feeling that Byron not going to agree with me. He might be out when it comes to the playoffs. But definitely we want to hear from everyone in the chat room because now it's time for one of the most popular games in Grid Live, pick a winner. Pick a winner is really simple. All you got to do in the chat room or on Twitter using the hashtag pick a winner, share with us who do you think is going to win the race. Now we got several races, and before we get there, just want to point out the golden number I have. I did pick the winner for the Indianapolis 500, Takuma Sato, so I do got a little bit of a bragging rights with there. But we have 2 supercar races ahead, Formula One, 2 IndyCar races, and NASCAR. Kobe, when it comes to supercar series, who do you got winning the first race and the second race?
I'm gonna go with the usual suspects. For the first one, Shane Van Gisbergen, and second one, Scott McLaughlin.
I'm gonna go with Scott McLaughlin. I think he really wants to rebound after the disappointment. And then I think Jamie Whincup, he has some momentum. I see him coming back and winning that second race. Of course, now that leaves us Formula One, the Belgium Grand Prix, the threat of weather out there. I think if we have wet weather, I'm anticipating an upset win. He's done good in the rain before, and he's starting up towards the front. I think Sergio Perez, if we get rain, he's going to win.
Yeah, and I think I'm also going to go with another 6th pick. I'm going to say that Lewis Hamilton gets it done at Spa.
Lewis Hamilton, definitely, if it's dry, I feel he's definitely easily the favorite to win. Now it comes to the IndyCar series. We got a race today, race tomorrow. Who do you have winning each race?
Race 1, I'm going to say Scott Dixon. And then race 2, I think Connor Daly's finally going to break through and get his first career IndyCar win at what he called his favorite track at Gateway.
Wow, that'll be really amazing to see him pull off. I think I'm going to go with a Penske driver. I think we're going to see Simon Pagenaud get a win. He's been really good there before. He could have won, except, of course, Joseph Newgarden had that crazy inside dive entering the first corner. And then I'm going to go with Pato O'Ward. I see Pato O'Ward. I think he will lay down a good second lap today in qualifying, get that pole for Sunday's race, and then take the win. And, of course, last but not least, Coke 0400 NASCAR Cup Series race. Who do you have winning this race?
I'm actually gonna go with a surprise winner who's currently not locked into the playoffs. Roush Fenway Racing was close to winning the Daytona 500. Then remember the scary crash involving Ryan Newman. Newman was close to winning the 500, but it just wasn't meant to be. But however, the other driver, Roush Fenway Racing, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say he's gonna play spoiler tonight and shake up the playoff picture altogether. And I think we might see Chris Buescher in victory lane.
Chris Buescher would be a huge surprise considering everything that team has been going through this year. Some great races, some races where they've just been nowhere near. I'm going to go with, I think it will be a big upset. He is third on the active driver list. He finished second there for the Daytona 500 a couple years ago. I'm going to go with Bubba Wallace. I think he has some momentum. The team has really rallied around him, and I do see that team potentially winning. With that said, some of the people's picks, we have one person said Chico and RP. Can they go for the podium? If there's rain, especially, I think so. I mean, Sergio, I think, is really, really good. There's a very good chance of that. I know another fan, Winework, pick a winner. They went with Pato O'Ward. So they got Pato O'Ward coming. And, of course, for the IndyCars, Pato O'Ward seems to be a really popular pick. So definitely we thank everyone. And, of course, if you get it correctly, you will be on the pick a winner board here. Kobe has a huge lead, 12. I'm at 6, so we got to play catch up. And, of course, if you're on Twitter, be sure use the hashtag pick a winner, and you can follow us, the Grid Rankin on Twitter. And we also have Grid_WML. Pretty much that's going to do for today's program. We encourage everyone watching, especially on YouTube, subscribe and like to our channel. Definitely want to keep growing. We have a lot of programming, including Sunday post-race analysis of all the races we discussed. Wednesday, Grid Tonight. Very excited about that. And then, of course, if you haven't seen yesterday's Life on the Grid with special guest Darius Goodman and musical guest Jacob Harbor, wonderful episode. Talked about a lot of topics, everything from, outside the racetrack, good music. And then we're very excited to announce Thursday, we're going to have a brand new program in which we're going to be working with racers, the girls behind the helmet, to bring to you, Grid Girls, a weekly review and preview of all the women in racing. So we're very excited to be working with everyone at Racers for this new program. That's going to be on Thursday. And then, of course, Monday, Tuesday, we're going to have news updates throughout the week. Any final words before we start the race weekend, Kobe?
Yeah, I want to highly encourage all the fans out there. If you haven't watched the end of last night's NASCAR Xfinity race at Daytona, I highly encourage you to do so. That was a really crazy finish, college racing. I know some people have called them the new DEI on the restrictor plate track. It seemed like for the past year or so, college racing has definitely, had a lot of those Xfinity super speedway races under control. Last night, it was AJ Allmendinger, Ross Chastain, Justin Haley working together for much of the race. And then on the last lap, AJ Allmendinger was out front. Ross Chastain was behind. And AJ Allmendinger left the door open a little bit. Ross Chastain, aggressive move. Ross is an aggressive driver. Tried to go under AJ and end up crashing his teammate at College Racing. AJ Allmendinger was turned around in front of the field, hard crash. Then Ross Chastain crashed with him as well. And Justin Haley, the third College car, was able to come through and steal the win. It was Ross Chastain. I don't have no idea how, after crashing with Allmendinger, he still willed that thing to a sixth place finish. Just definitely, real crazy finish last night between the College cars, and it certainly, it was quite a discussion last night on Twitter talking about the incident, about Ross Chastain's aggressiveness, and AJ Allmendinger was he handled it in a very professional way in his interviews afterwards. He's just saying, hey, I'm just here to take care of my teammates and all of that. And Ross is out there going for a championship, and he hasn't won a race yet. So yeah, you do understand that. But certainly there are going to be more questions now about Ross Chastain's aggressiveness as a driver.
Yeah, it was a very exciting finish, and definitely you bring up a lot of good points. One fan brings up a good point. Weinberg, Chris Buescher has 3 top 5s at Daytona, so your winner pick looks a lot more really solid pick for the Coke 0400. Definitely, I know I'm really excited about the 2 IndyCar races today and tomorrow. I mean, the IndyCar series, it looks like the championship might be decided. But I do think, especially if the Chevrolets really do come back powerful, they're going to look really good. One of them is going to get the win. I know I made my pick, but I wouldn't be too surprised thinking about it if we see Connor Daly or another Chevrolet driver take the win. But definitely it's really exciting to see the racing weekend start up again. Be sure to follow us, gridranking.com, and we want to give a special shout out as well to our first Patreon sponsor. Thank you, Colin. Yesterday, our first Patreon sponsor, after we went off the air for Life on the Grid, your support and sponsor will ensure that we'll keep going, keep making projects, and hopefully someday we'll be at the racetracks bringing you coverage, especially after essentially the pandemic is over. One quick question for you, Kobe. Would you like to see IndyCar return to Mexico City? That's a question from one of our viewers.
Yes. We definitely need to have IndyCar return to Mexico City. Yeah. I love that track down there. To run for the Mexican Grand Prix. Yeah, especially with all of the renovations. It's definitely a high speed, low downforce track, and especially love the scenery going through the stadium section. NASCAR raced there as well in what's now called the Xfinity Series. Back then, I believe it was the NASCAR Busch Series. Yeah, I really love those races. Juan Pablo Montoya won his first Xfinity race at Mexico City, spinning out, road course ringer and teammate at the time, Scott Pruitt. That was definitely a wild finish. Yeah, but certainly, especially, since we have Pato O'Ward now in the series, Mexican driver, I believe that it would be very beneficial for the series to go to Mexico City. I'm sure if IndyCar does go to Mexico City, there'll be a lot of Pato O'Ward fans in the crowd.
Yes, perfectly said. Pato O'Ward fans out there, that track is really great. Done great Formula One races, great Formula E events as well, including that classic finish between Pascal Wehrlein and Lucas Di Grassi. NASCAR put on some good shows there. NASCAR should easily consider it, in my opinion. Maybe even have the Cup Series go there. But definitely, it's a wonderful track. Love to see the Indy cars be there as well. For Kobe Lambeth at thepodiumfinish.net, I'm Joe Santiago from the Grid Ranking. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the Grid Network on YouTube and enjoy the races.